Hey guys, welcome to another Epic 7 video. Today is a build guide featuring one of my most used heroes in this game, Blood Blade Karin. Such a great unit to have, and I use her pretty much in any hard PvE contents, as well as my main attacker in PvP. Now she's a dark type thief that, well, to put it simply, likes to play with HP. She's one of those units that has high sustain, while being able to deal quite a lot of damage at the same time. The only minor problem for her is that she needs a lot of investment, and she's PvP oriented, and because of this, she's not recommended for new players. In my opinion, she's a risk versus reward character. Her kit kind of forces you to take risks to deal more damage. But before we dive into her builds, I'll go through her skills in detail and then have a look at possible builds for BBK. If you want to skip straight to the build, I've put a timestamp in the description box, and with that, let's have a look at her skills. BBK's first skill, Sequential Cutter, attacks a single target and has a built-in lifesteal. She heals around 50% of the damage she deals, so if she hits like a truck, 10k damage, she heals 5k HP. Pretty nice, but that's not all. If she defeats an enemy, she gains 50% combat readiness. This pretty much puts her in a good position to quickly take out a second target. This is her only sustain skill and will really help if your Soul Weaver's healing skills are in cooldown. Or just outright don't heal her if she's in the right position, and save it for your other units instead. With the skill enhance, you can increase her damage by an additional 30% and a 30% more healing. Now her total healing is not additive, just to clear that out. It's 30% more healing from her base 50%. So the total healing is 65% of her damage. Not as good as you may have thought at first, but she doesn't really need more. I mean, with enough damage, her HP will go right back up. Her second skill, Cursed Sword, is a passive skill that pretty much gives her extra stats the lower her HP is. The extra stats she gets from this skill are attack, defense, and speed. One thing that you should know about this is that the missing HP versus stat increase is not linear. Rather, it's done in increments. She gets an extra 16%, somewhere between 16% and 17% extra stats per 25% missing HP. So that's 16% increase below 75% HP, 32% increase below 50% HP, and 48% increase below 25% HP. With skill enhance at max, she gets 25% extra stats per 25% missing HP. Now this is really scary since she gets a total of 75% more damage if she attacks while below 25% HP. This means that you have the option of building her as a bruiser, since you can just rely on this skill for more damage. However, there are risks involved. You know, the lower the HP, the more likely she will die. But that's what makes her a risk and reward unit. If you use her well, and with a bit of luck, she will definitely be tough to take down. Now her last skill is an AoE skill, but it costs 20% of her current HP to use it. If she is not awakened 3 times, you only get 50% combat readiness if she defeats an enemy. After skill awakening, she gets an extra turn instead. Her Soulburn effect increases her S3 damage, and the cost is pretty cheap. This is something you definitely want to use whenever you've applied a defense break on the enemy team, or when her HP is below 50%. I mean, that way you get a stat increase from her S2, which in turn increase her damage overall. With skill enhance, you can increase her S3 damage up to 35% and decrease her cooldown by 1, so that's a full turn cooldown. This skill makes her a good farmer when doing event stages, story, and Spirit Altars. However, she is slower compared to someone like Cez and Vudrid. The advantage she has over them is that she can tank in higher difficulties, so you don't really need to bring in a healer in your team, and the fact that she gets stronger the lower her HP is, she will get more turns, more damage, and is something you can definitely put in auto mode. Now for skill enhance, there's two ways that you can go, but this will affect what kind of build she will have. A turn 1 BBK cleaver should prioritize S3 first and then S1, but doesn't necessarily need to invest in S2. Now why is this? Well, she doesn't really need it. I mean, when she uses her S3, she loses 20% of her HP. If she initially has full HP, it's not enough to trigger the first phase of her S2 passive, so there's no point. And if you kill an enemy from S3, she will heal back up from S1, rendering her S2 pretty much useless. A turn 2 BBK Bruiser will need to invest on her S2 first, since she gets up to 75% stat increase. This is way better compared to the extra damage provided from other skill enhance, especially the speed boost. Now next one is completely up to you, whichever you find the most useful, but in the end you should invest in all her skills. If you are using BBK in PvE contents as well, but you are going for a turn 1 cleave, then you should also invest in her S2. So pretty much invest in all her skills, if you really want her to shine. Now there are two ways you can build BBK, and I'm going to focus the build towards PvP and Guild War. You can still use these builds for PvE, nothing wrong with it, but most people use BBK in PvP content, so I'll focus on that. Now before choosing gears for her, you have to ask yourself, do I want a turn 1 BBK or a turn 2 BBK? Choosing one or the other will influence a lot of things, the kind of team you want to fight, your team composition, and of course her build. A turn 1 BBK only cares about dealing as much damage as it can, the rest don't exist for her. This is because you want to nuke the other opponent to existence before they attack back. Of course, because of this makes her team reliant, so you need specific team composition to push her to the front. If you want a turn 1 BBK, attack and crit set is the way to go, and a good start. Then, later on you can transition to either destruction set or rage set for more damage output. Now rage set might seem like a bad idea since she doesn't have any skills that can apply debuffs, but turn 1 BBK is team reliant. She needs other units to carry her ass, not just to the front but help maximize her damage output. So you will definitely need a defense breaker, preferably an AoE defense breaker unit. But if you don't have any, or if a lot of the team you are fighting has immunity set, then it's safer to use destruction set instead. For substats, you definitely need attack percentage, crit chance, and crit damage. Secondary stats are HP percentage or speed. Main stats for necklace should always be crit damage, ring, attack percentage, and boots also attack percentage. If you have a unit in your team that can buff crit hit chance, then it's safe to have BBK's crit at 50%. But if you don't have one, then she needs at least 85% to 90%. If some substats do not give crit chance, then it's better to give her 3 crit sets instead. For a turn 2 bruiser, you can also use attack crit set, but the main and substats will be slightly different, or you can also use speed crit set, or 3 crit set if you need more crit chance. The idea behind this is that she needs a good amount of HP to at least survive an attack from a DPS, low enough to trigger the last phase of her S2. The goal is getting that 75% stat increase. This pushes her turn faster and sets up her S3 to do a lot of damage. Investing in more HP does mean her damage suffers, But this can easily be mitigated from her S2 passive, and this is something a full damage BBK can't fully take advantage of. Main stats on necklace is still crit damage, ring either HP percentage or attack percentage, and the same with boots. Now if you have a HP percentage main ring, then your boots have to be attack percentage, and if it's the other way around, then boots have to be HP percentage. Substats is similar to the first build, but more priority on HP percentage and less priority on crit chance. But if you really need more crit chance, then put less priority on either attack percentage or crit damage. Unlike the first build, this one is easier to put in a team since she doesn't really need to rely on other units, so you're pretty much free to build however you want. The only thing that you might want to consider is having a unit that has immortality buff, so if she does get one-shotted, then not only will she not die, but her S2 will be on its final phase, 75% stat increase. You can also do this using revive buff, but if she gets attacked again, then there's a chance she might die. Of course, with an exception of Ruel, since her revive fully heals the target. With Ruel, it's kind of a gamble. I mean, you lose the S2 passive, but if you know she's gonna get attacked again, then this can make the play. The first one is Wind Rider, which grants both stealth and an attack buff. Not the best, but this is something you might want to consider if you want to dodge single target nukers. The only problem with this is that to make use of this stealth buff, she has to defeat the enemy using her S1 and not her S3. This is because her S3 gives her an extra turn, which makes the buff useless. Also, if you max enhance this artifact, then it's better than the regular attack buff. The next one is Rhea in Lucy, and it has its own charms. What this does for BBK is make her combo longer, but the problem with this is that she needs her S3 up. Considering that her S3 is pretty long, and the fact that her S2 is a passive skill, the chances of triggering this artifact at the right time is very slim. Most of the time, you will be using S1, this artifact triggers, and then choose a target to use another S1. The plus side is she gets one less cooldown on her S3. Problem is, only S3 benefits from this effect. Now if this triggers on the right time, it's actually pretty good. There's two different ones I can think of. You can either do S1, RNL triggers, use S3, get an extra turn from S3, use S1, RNL procs, and then use S1 again. Or you can use S3, get the extra turn from S3 and RNL triggers, use two S1s, but on the second S1, RNL triggers again, which lets you use another S1. Pretty good, right? But this is something you give when bringing BBK to a PvE content, or might work for a bruiser BBK. Personally, I don't use this artifact, rather I use Dusk Devil for two reasons. More trigger chance compared to Rhea and Lucy, and most of the time in a long battle, you will be spamming her S1 anyway. The good thing about this is that if the target isn't defeated from the first attack, then at least there's a chance to defeat it on the second attack, and triggers an extra 50% combat readiness from her S1, not to mention twice the healing. Also, these artifacts can trigger on dual attacks. Now let's say Tamarin is in her idle form, uses S1, triggers a dual attack, BBK attacks, it has a chance to trigger Dusk Devil, which means she can attack twice on a dual attack. And if she defeats an enemy during that dual attack, she will also get that 50% combat readiness. But like the previous artifact, this is best used in PvE contents, or it might work for a bruiser BBK. Now, Portrait of the Saviors is a really good artifact for BBK, especially a cleaver BBK, because this further increases her damage output from her S3. Most likely when you build a team around her, she will be the first one to drop the bomb. So this means the enemy team will always have their HP above 50%. Now, due to this artifact being a limited item, this is not available for everyone. But there is a downgraded version of this, which is the artifact Tonfa. The only difference between these two is the 4% difference at max level. Axe and Joker is good as a starter, but mostly used in PvE contents rather than PvP. And lastly, Sword of the Morning. This is good for a bruiser BBK for a few reasons. First, it stacks with her S2. Second, you want her attacked to make use of her stat increase, and this artifact just rides that idea. And third, the stat provided from this artifact benefits her a lot. Faster turn and more damage. Now, BBK is a PvP oriented unit, a risk taker. I think her whole character is built as a bruiser. I mean, her whole kit kind of says that. So she's someone that takes damage and shines the lower her HP is. But that doesn't stop anyone from building her as a pure damage dealer. Just because it works and with the help of other units can make it possible. The fact that a bruiser BBK has to take a risk to do more damage is one of the reasons why some people prefer a pure damage build. Well, either that or they have the right team. Either way, both works, and for me, I use a pure damage build. Less brain needed, and all I really need to care about is getting that first turn, take out their DPS, and avoid Fallen Cecilias and MLKens. Outside of PvP contents, you can use her as a fodder farmer, either in story mode, event stages, and spirit altars. She works quite well in Azimanak Hunt just to clear out the eggs. If you want to use her in other hunt stages, she's good for clearing out the first wave if you really want to get to the boss fast. And with that, that's my take on Bloodblade Karin. Thanks for watching and sticking to the end. Leave a like if this was useful to you, and I'll see you in another Epic 7 video. Cheers! Rover out.